From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
All right, let's kick off a big Thursday here. Get rolling into it as we move into the weekend. It's coming. As we roll through Iran and everything else, let's get going. It's fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom every single day. Three big things this hour. Number one, the federal government dumped almost 400,000 jobs in the first year of the Trump administration, saving the taxpayers billions of dollars. Number two, the United States is turning up the heat on Venezuela and its interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, who could still herself face indictment. The only way around it, complete cooperation. And number three, time for some introspection here on the program today. You see, I'm old enough to remember when Democrats, the majority of Democrats, were still Americans. When they took pride in the country that they represented, when they understood what makes us different and what makes us great. When they at least pretended to agree, or at a minimum tolerate, the beliefs and ideas that our founding fathers held and built this great republic on. Those days are long dead and long gone. James Tallarico has been representing part of Austin, Texas, the state House of Representatives since 2018. And on Tuesday, he won the Democratic Senate primary over Representative Jasmine Crockett. Now, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican either. But I wouldn't vote for a Democrat at this point. How could you? But these are the kinds of ideas that convince Democrats to vote for Tallarico, who professes to be a Christian believer. In fact, he's actually training to be an ordained minister at a Presbyterian seminary. And yet, this is what he has to say from the pulpit.
In committee, I listened to 15 hours of testimony on this bill. The worst part for me was the number of Christians who used Scripture to justify hurting children. Even on this floor today, a member tried to justify a hateful amendment in the name of God's law. So let's talk about that. The first two lines of the Bible, the first two lines in Genesis, use two different Hebrew words to describe God. One is the masculine Hebrew noun for divinity. The second is the feminine Hebrew noun for spirit. God is both masculine and feminine and everything in between. God is non-binary.
You've got to be kidding me. This guy is willing to subvert thousands of years of biblical teaching for viral clips that get him elected by a very liberal voting base. He's attempting to pass a bill that encourages minors to change their gender. You heard me right. To engage in self-mutilation by calling God non-binary. God is divine. He is not a biological being, so he doesn't possess a biological sex per se, but in no way does that equate to the modern-day mental illness of non-binary identification. Scripture reveals God through the use of overwhelming masculine language, titles, pronouns, and self-identification. God the Father, who came to this world through his incarnation of his Son, a biological male, Jesus. There's never been any confusion on this subject, never, until nitwits like James Tallarico decided to start using it for their political advantage. Here's more from that same speech.
Trans children are God's children, made in God's own image. There's nothing wrong with them, nothing at all. They are perfect, they are beautiful, and they are sacred. Bullying children is immoral. It's a sin, a special kind of sin.
Does he hear himself? He's right. Children are made in God's image, period, full stop. There's nothing wrong with the gender that they're born. There's no other classification. Children are not born trans, and they should never be encouraged as children to pursue that diabolical path. There should be no such thing as trans children. Using that terminology is simply evil. Here's another one of James Tallarico's great ideas. Listen to this.
Southern border should be like our front porch. There should be a giant welcome mat out front.
Really? Mass illegal immigration should be a giant welcome mat out front. No thanks. This analogy also fails to include the fact that Democrat leadership has issued a call worldwide that the door is wide open to anybody that wants to come into our country illegally. I don't have millions of people trying to get into my front door, but our southern border did, thanks to his party in Texas, where he's from. This will not sell. James Tallarico's rise to power shows that the only Christian that the Democrats are willing to accept is a fake one that twists and subverts biblical teaching to put a stamp of approval on a whole host of policies that go counter to everything the Bible teaches. Tim Walz, another Democrat who claims to be a Christian but who used his position to advance the woke agenda at the cost of his constituents in Minnesota. He's overseen billions in fraud that he let happen simply because he wanted to keep the vote of the Somalians of his state in his column, many who came here illegally in the first place as well. And he sat on Capitol Hill yesterday pretending like he knows nothing about it. Here's just some of the scale of fraud he's allowed in his state. Listen to this list.
How much money was spent on 2017 for autism in Minnesota? How much?
I don't know. I wasn't the governor.
Okay. Did you not just say that you prepared for this hearing today? $1 million, okay? A quick Google search or using your AI could tell you $1 million was spent. How much money was spent on autism in Minnesota in 2024?
I don't have the number in front of me.
Were you governor in 2024?
I was, but I'm not the
Okay,
head
so
of
your
HHS.
excuse before that you didn't know what 2017 autism numbers were because you were not governor, and today you can't answer the numbers about 2024 as governor, and you still said you prepared for this hearing today. It's unbelievable. $343 million was spent in 2024. What percent increase is that from 1 million to 343 million? What percentage increase is that?
I'm not here to be your prop. Go ahead and tell me.
Yeah, okay. He's clearly out of his depth. Do the math. 343 times more. From 1 million to 343 million in just 7 years. That's the level of the fraud in Minnesota. And as astounding as that is, it's not just dollars flying out the window in his administration. It's real Minnesotan lives that have been lost as a result of his policies. Policies that have given out free education, free health care, driver's licenses to illegal aliens who don't speak English, can't read road signs, and sure as hell shouldn't be driving on the road on 18-wheelers. Here's more from the hearing.
Let me make the connection for you. According to the Secretary of Transportation, 1/3 of Minnesota's non-domiciled commercial driver's licenses were issued illegally. Do you have a video ready to play for me? Can you play it now? This is what happens, Mr. Governor. This is what happens when you issue driver's licenses to people
Hold on
illegally.
right there.
He is on the northbound lanes.
Hold on right there. We'll pick it up right there when we come back. No idea how much money his state spends on autism. His state gives the illegals CDLs to drive down the road, your roads and mine. These are the new Democrats. Frightening, isn't it? I'll be right back. All right, let's pick up right where we were. Pick it back up there, Anthony, right where that was. Roll that again.
Let me make the connection for you. Legally. We're issued illegally. Do you have a video ready to play for me? Can you play it now? This is what happens, Mr. Governor. This is what happens when you issue driver's licenses to people illegally.
He is on the northbound lanes of 61, going the wrong way. You can see I'm going southbound on 61. He's in the northbound lanes on Highway 61.
I'm crossing over there. And thank God, I don't know how much that thing weighs, 60, 80,000 pounds, 60 miles an hour.
18-wheeler.
You can cut the video. He was licensed in your state under a law that you signed that precludes federal officials, your federal partners, as you call them, from determining whether they're here illegally. That guy that was driving that truck couldn't pass the test. He didn't pass the test out on the road. There's another video, I'm not going to play it, but there's another video of a guy here illegally turning a truck like that around in the middle of a highway where people lost their lives because they were decapitated when they went underneath it. That's what happened. So
That's exactly what happens. This is the new Democrat Party, the one that says illegal aliens deserve commercial driver's licenses more than Minnesota residents deserve the right to a safe drive home. It's not American, it's insanity. Like I said, I remember when Democrats still acted like Americans, most of them. You don't have to like the war going on in the Middle East. I understand that. If you've got your reasons, that's fine. I appreciate that. But if you're an elected politician representing this country, you don't denigrate the commander-in-chief in the middle of the effort. Hakeem Jeffries has been making a clown out of himself on this issue in front of the cameras for the last week now. Here's a clear example.
Thank you, Leader Jeffries. Back in 2011, Nancy Pelosi said that then President Obama didn't need congressional approval to bomb Libya. Now House Democrats say President Trump needs that approval to bomb Iran. What's the difference?
Well, obviously, Libya and the circumstances connected to that were very different than the circumstance that we face in Iran right now. I mean, I don't even understand the genesis or basis of that question. Not suggesting that you're not asking it in good faith.
Libya went on for 7 months.
As I've indicated, first of all, I was not in Congress at the time. So we're dealing with what we're dealing with right now, which is a catastrophic, endless war, as Donald Trump has characterized it, without any justification that there was going to be a preeminent assault or attack on the United States of America, either in our homeland or as it relates to our interests in the Middle East.
Yeah, Libya wasn't preparing to attack either. The Democrat Party is all about tanking what America does, no matter what it is, because they don't like Donald Trump. Iran is currently hitting some of our military bases, our consulate, our embassies, and has done so for the last nearly 50 years. But you're going to go on national TV and tell the world that you don't support the commander-in-chief for doing something about it. It's weakness. It's intentionally creating conflict here at home. He says Libya and Iran are two different situations. Okay, fine. Here's the Democrat Party less than 2 decades ago on the very same situation. Listen in.
I want the Iranians to know that if I'm the president, we will attack Iran. Whatever stage of development they might be in their nuclear weapons program in the next 10 years, during which they might foolishly consider launching an attack on Israel, we would be able to totally obliterate them. That's a terrible thing to say. But those people who run Iran need to understand that, because that perhaps will deter them from doing something that would be reckless, foolish, and tragic.
I don't know what happened to these people. Somewhere along the way, they decided to sell out for an agenda that completely undermines everything that makes this country. Everything. Democrats transform from patriots into radicals who mock God, sacrifice children on the altar of ideology, welcome invaders, and stab our nation in the back during wartime. It's not America. I'm going to keep exposing these hypocrites until they return to the principles that made us the greatest country. More likely, however, that won't happen until pigs fly. All right, so there you go. On a related note, by the way, I mentioned this off the top. I want to get it in. The United States is turning up the heat on Venezuela with a threat to indict the new interim president Delcy Rodriguez. Remember just 8 weeks ago, or is it 9 now, the Democrats were screaming about the removal of the dictator Maduro, who was operating a huge drug operation for Venezuela. It was a centralized crime syndicate in Venezuela. He had turned the place from one of the wealthiest countries in the world into a fiefdom for himself. He did. Controlled the oil, killed the people. It was a horrible thing. The Democrats screamed against that. How is Venezuela doing today? Well, better, to say the least. And if Delcy Rodriguez doesn't play ball, she too could find herself on trial in the United States. That's the monologue for today. Did you know that American homeowners nationwide have over $32 trillion in equity, and cyber criminals are targeting it every single day with a scam the FBI calls house stealing? House alarms, doorbell cameras, deadbolts, they don't work against these thieves because they're not after your stuff, they're after your equity. If your title isn't being monitored, scammers can transfer the title out of your home with some documents they filed at the county and then take out loans against it or even sell it behind your back. We've told the stories here. The scariest part, you don't find out until collection or even foreclosure notices start arriving in your mailbox. But by then, well, the damage has been done. The best way to protect your equity is with triple lock protection from my friends at Home Title Lock. Triple lock protection, 24/7 monitoring, alerts of any changes, and God forbid, if the worst happens, restoration services, no out-of-pocket cost to you. You can check on your home's title today and make sure you're not already a victim. Use the promo code Gruber at HometitleLock.com to make sure your title is still in your name. You'll also get a free title history report plus a free 14-day trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts to any changes. If fraud should happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. Again, go to HometitleLock.com right now. Use the promo code Gruber. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code Gruber. You'll sleep better tonight. I'll be back after this. Well, we lost, and look, I don't take any pleasure in people losing their jobs. I don't, but this is the number, 386,826. 386,826 workers that are no longer in the federal government after Donald Trump's first year in office. Almost 400,000 jobs have been culled from the workforce in an effort to pare down the government, right-size the government, try to get rid of some of this bloat and waste. The Office of Personnel Management, the U.S. government's HR office, published the information. The downsizing, of course, part of Donald Trump's efforts to make the government more efficient for you, the taxpayer. And like I said, I don't take pleasure in somebody losing their job. However, in order to save this republic, we can't just have endless amounts of government workers. The bureaucracy, the bloat, the expense. We can't have it. But I'll tell you what we should do. We should pay for TSA to operate. We should. We should fund TSA. We should fund the Coast Guard. This partial government shutdown is at a ridiculous time, and there's no value to it. ICE is funded through 2029, and you know what? The Democrats know that. They do. Anyhow, Don't expect them to change anytime soon. They're standing on principle, they claim. Really, they're standing on us. A new year doesn't mean extreme diets or complicated routines. It needs consistency. Sure does. Longevity Wellness, this is a great product. Helps you build that habit with one clean, all-in-one nutritional shake that supports strength, focus, digestion, and immune health. It is smart nutrition you can actually stick with. Start strong today. Visit longevitywellness.co and use the promo code Gruber for a special listener discount. That's Gruber at longevitywellness.co. Yeah, we use this product here. If you're in sports, great product. Keeps you going. It really fires you up. If you're older and you want to make sure you get the right nutrition, great product. If you just don't want to lose bone and muscle because you're on some sort of a diet plan, again, great product. longevitywellness.co. It's a great company. It is a great formulation made with real products. All right? I'll take a break and be right back. The ongoing battle against human trafficking in this country. We're going to talk about it after the break. In case you missed it this week, Tim Tebow, Ivy played it yesterday. Tim Tebow was in front of Congress testifying about the exploitation of children. Tim Tebow, a former football star, Heisman Trophy winner, all of that stuff, right? But he said God didn't give him strength to carry a football game, strength to protect children. And he put up a map at almost 400,000 dots on it. He said every one of those dots represents a unique IP address, a unique computer that's currently watching the exploitation of children, some of it graphic pornography. 60% of the images involve children under 12. Just think about the evil nature of that. Mary Flynn O'Neill is the executive director of America's Future. She joins me now. Mary, nice to have you on the program.
Thank you, Steve. How are you today? This is a beautiful morning.
It is a beautiful morning.
A new day, right?
But we've got to fight, because right now there are children at this moment that are being exploited for all sorts of reasons that turn my stomach, to be honest.
Right.
I'm sure you saw the Tim Tebow testimony with those dots on the map and all that exploitation going on. And after Jeffrey Epstein, we should be very aware of this. We should know that children are being exploited in this country. Rip back the curtain, prosecute people, put them in handcuffs. I mean, transparency is all fine and well, Mary, but without consequences, it's meaningless. Your thoughts?
It goes way back, Steve. It goes way back. It goes back to the Boy Scouts. It goes back to University of Pennsylvania. I mean, there's been many, many pedophiles that have been caught hurting the priests in the Catholic Church. Come on, these people never were held accountable, really, to the degree of change to make this never happen again. It should never have happened back in those times either. So we have this escalation of this real bad evil that has really perpetrated the world, and it's a big money maker. It's a $350 billion industry in this country. We are the biggest buyers and sellers of children in this country. That's the black spot USA has on it, and it really needs to be addressed. We have solutions, and we have to understand that I'm at a point right now. I've been going around the country with my brother, General Flynn, with a team of very, very big experts, training people in communities, local action, about these evils and what to do, how to project defend and protect our children, okay? Because we got to have solutions now, and we got to have action. No more talk about, we know how evil it is. It's the highest level of evil you've ever seen in your life right now. When you see the statistics in that map that Tebow showed, we've been showing people that for maybe 5 years, those dots. Data has been available. Nobody has been doing anything. And in 2021, ORR, okay, they opened up a can of worms. They stopped DNA. They stopped vetting sponsors. They said speed over safety because they were so overwhelmed with children coming across that border.
That was the excuse, Mary. Yeah, that was the excuse. Right. There is a move right now to hire 200 more internet specialists, if you will, detectives that'll get online and identify these 386,000 red dots. Every one of these people, I want to go back to Chris Hansen, to catch a predator. I want that on a mass scale. I want cameras rolling. I want these people's faces exposed. I want them dragged out in handcuffs. Mary, I must have been naive my whole life. I didn't even know this existed, right? I've never seen this. It's not part of my personal experience. I don't know anything about this. And yet, apparently, as you pointed out, America, the #1 place for this kind of exploitation in the world, $350 billion estimated.
Right.
The hell's wrong with us?
I know. I'm telling you. Well, it's a whole agenda. Decades ago started, with taking God out of this country, secularism. It's just a whole series of agenda that this kind of group of people, this evil, this kind of secular kind of thing that wanted to, it goes way back. It goes back to the feminist movement. I can go on and on and on about this, how we got here. But it's like this country, you're a good man. Men are important in the family. Children need their fathers. Children need good men around them. They don't need to be feeling unsafe. And, young women, young girls, and young boys, they've just, we cannot look at children like they are money or they are a sexual,
they're a commodity, Mary. That's how they are a commodity.
That's right.
That's what they are. They're bought and sold. Right, they're traded around. They're passed around. It's a horrible thing. And I don't know what is wrong with somebody that they are so dark, so evil, that they would abuse you. Because some of these children, as Tim Tebow pointed out, they're not just under 12. They're infants. I mean, for
Oh,
the
no,
love
we're
of
going.
God.
Oh no, we're going real. Oh no, listen. This 2 years ago, I have people on the ground all over the place in other countries. Listen, they've seen. I knew this stuff. I can, it's deep and dark, and we're at Revelation 17. Go back to the Bible, read the 17. You will see the highest level of evil right now, but we are also at a high level of spiritual health too. We've got a lot of change going on in the world. See it around the country, around the world, all the, the uprising of Christians, of course, the killing of Christians. But it's really important that this country starts to rise back up, get back to its traditions, get back to its, principles of our founding fathers, get back to this nation under God, right? And we get back to, it really is, it's very important. And the family, a man is a man and a woman is a woman, and they have children and they have families. We have to embrace these things now. We can't look at children like they're, just slaves. So 50 million people, listen, Steve, 50 million people around the world are in slavery.
More than at any time in human history, right now. And people are like, that's not, it is true. African nations, nations in the Middle East, and they might try to call it something different or dress it up, but it's just the way it is. Here's what I've got a couple of minutes left here, Mary. I want to ask you this. I want people listening to hear this. How do I see it? How do I identify it? How do I become part of the solution? Look, again, I have no idea where this operates in the dark reaches of the dark web or in the back alleys of my small town or your big city or wherever people might be. How do I identify? How do I get involved and become part of the solution?
Well, anybody that has children needs to be trained. They really do. There's, I go around talking about AI. AI in the wrong hands is very dangerous. First of all, you've got to get kids off the internet. 75 predators are right there in their bedroom when they're playing games. Okay, so parents need to get educated, and they need to take those phones and those games and those computers, they need to take them down. So Tebow talks about the pornography and the dark web. Why hasn't the dark web been addressed? Why? Because
I believe, and in fairness, Mary, I believe that's what the Trump administration is doing, to hire these 200 or 300 new agents to search it out. And it has to happen. So here's the thing. I need to have you back. We're going to keep pounding this message, because this message has to be heard. America, you should be ashamed of yourself for this. I love America, greatest nation in the history of nations. This is a stain. This is a black eye. We need to clean this stuff up and put people in prison for it. AmericasFuture.net. You can find out more. AmericasFuture.net. Mary Flynn O'Neill, keep fighting, please.
I will. Thank you. Thanks, Steve. You too.
Thank you so much for being here. It's unbelievable, isn't it? 386,000 dots on that map. We have got to do better. We've got to. We're going to talk about the economy, oil prices, and everything else right after the break related to Iran. What does it mean to you personally after this? Right? There's no question that uncertainty is not good for markets. We know that. The war in Iran, the market shedded, what was it, 1,200 points here a couple of days ago. Then it came back and it only lost 400 for the day. Oil prices, oil's up about $10 a barrel. I thought it was going to go higher. Sitting at about 76 for West Texas Intermediate today. How does this all impact you? No lazy money with Nick Hopwood, founder and president of Peak Wealth Management. Nick back with me. Nick, how are you?
Good morning, Steve. How are you?
I'm good. So the market has some volatility. Oil prices went up. That was to be expected. I did think it was going to go a lot higher. I thought we'd see $80 or $90 oil. Right now it's at 76. The impact of the war from where you sit on investments.
Yeah, Steve. Now, as of today, we probably have more questions than answers. But as you mentioned, higher oil prices, potentially higher gold, flight to safety, purchasing bonds, maybe flight to quality in stocks like consumer staples. But after about 3 or 4 days now here, the S&P is only down 1.7% since the all-time high.
Right.
So it's not too bad so far.
Yeah, gas is up about 30 cents a gallon according to AAA over the last week. That's to be expected. Hopefully it's temporary because, as you know, energy touches everything, right?
Yeah, and I would expect it to be temporary, and it would not compare to the 70s because the U.S. is a net exporter of oil. So ultimately, it's completely different than the last shock. But if you look at this chart here, Steve, I know it's hard to see because there's so many different geopolitical events going back to 1940. But if we look out 1 month later after all of these different events, 40 different events listed here, the return for the market is minus 1% on average 1 month after the event. So that tracks with what we're seeing right now. And we just want to keep that in perspective when we're thinking about what we're doing with our portfolio.
Right. So the war doesn't impact good companies that have good products and good returns and good investments. I mean, they're still good companies, right?
That's right. But good companies' stocks can still go down in any time period. So keep that in mind.
All right. But the Dow's been up, as you mentioned here, Dow's been up 10 months in a row. After a big event like this, a shock to the system, after a month, it's only losing about 1% total. That's a lot better than I expected, Nick. I consider that to be good news.
I do. And so think about this. This has only happened 5 times since 1900 before today, where we had 10 months in a row where it was up. Since 1960, it only happened one other time, which was in 2018. So this is very rare. And interestingly, the average return for the Dow looking forward after a 10-month streak is plus 12%, which is better than average. So, maybe this is the month that breaks the streak, but still that plus 12% looking forward still holds.
All right, so that's looking at the historical fact. This is how it works. This is how it will continue to work. So don't panic, is what Nick is saying. I mean, look, you can be concerned. You can move some things around. Maybe, look, Buffett said, when there's blood in the streets, buy. Maybe we should have been buying when it was down 1,200 points. I don't know. But I want to talk about some good news here today, Nick, because I was in the room with Michael Dell and the president the day that he announced the Trump accounts, right? I was standing there with him, talked to him a little bit, asked a couple of questions. The Trump accounts, I actually hear people that say, well, I don't like Donald Trump. I'm not going to take that free money. I'm like, what? You're not going to take the money because you don't like Donald Trump. Look, here is an ability for young people to get an investment from the day they're born, right? And you can invest up to $5,000 a year. Aunts, uncles, wherever the money comes from, you can put in $5,000 a year. This is a big opportunity, isn't it?
Steve, it's beyond big. It's huge. And now everyone's focused on the $250 from Dell and the $1,000 from the feds for the babies. But I want you to think bigger. Think about 18 years for a new baby born right now. Parents, grandparents, other family members depositing $5,000 per year. After 18 years, that's $90,000. If it's growing at 8%, which is not unreasonable, it would be worth $202,000 at age 18. Now think about this. It goes from the Trump account to an IRA, and the 18-year-old is not in a high tax bracket. They convert that 202 to Roth. They probably pay around $16,000 out of pocket. Now that $202,000 continues growing from age 18 to age 65, and you won't believe how much it can be worth. Over $7 million with no further contributions.
Isn't that remarkable? I've always, Somebody, if I could go back and people say, what would you say to your 18-year-old self? Invest more money. It would be my advice to my 18-year-old self. Invest more money, because if you invest when you're young, or if you invest from the day you're born, like these are allowed. I mean, I got $7 million when you retire, right? That's remarkable.
My call to action for all family members, for all parents, $500 per month into the 529 for college, and $5,000 per year to the Trump accounts for their retirement.
Yeah. By the way, after our, shifting gears again, after our last conversation, you're talking about these people getting shock tax bills, saying, wait a second, I didn't want that money. I didn't take that money, right? Explain that real quick, because I called immediately to a couple of people that have a bit of my money, and I said, do you do this? And they both said no. They were lucky because they were about to get fired, Nick. Anyhow, real quick, we got about 45 seconds. Explain again.
Yeah, so this is what we talked about last time. If you have a brokerage account with mutual funds held in that account, and by no fault of your own, the mutual funds declare capital gains distributions, usually at the end of the year in December. Steve, even if you didn't take the money out, these distributions are taxable. And the story was, we had a new client who just came on board. The mutual funds that he held declared $180,000 of long-term capital gains. And because he's paying 20% on long-term capital gains, plus Medicare tax, plus state of Michigan tax, he was at 28%, which is over $50,000 of tax by no fault of his own.
Yeah. Look, are you in that situation? Maybe you know, maybe you don't know. peakwm.com/Gruber. You can get some advice today. You can get a free Social Security evaluation from Nick as well. Nick, I really appreciate you sharing this with the folks. There's a QR code on your screen there as well, folks. If you just want to talk to Nick about what you're doing, about how you get invested and protect yourself from getting pinched like that on taxes, use the QR code there or go to peakwm.com/Gruber. Nick, you're a good man. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. You're a good man as well.
Thank you very much. Get a second opinion, seriously. Don't get pinched. Make sure you see it coming. I'll be right back. All right, President Trump has asked that when he makes an endorsement in the Republican Senate primary runoff that's coming up between sitting Senator John Cornyn and Attorney General Ken Paxton, he's asking in advance, he's not given the endorsement, he's asking in advance that whoever he doesn't endorse to step out of the race. We'll see if that happens or not. Look, all the polling told us that Ken Paxton was going to run away with the Republican primary. But in fact, John Cornyn came out 2 or 3 points ahead when the dust settled in Texas. It still means a runoff because neither candidate got to 50%. But it means all the polls were wrong. Yeah, Cornyn got about 42% and Paxton got about 40% of the vote. Wesley Hunt, the congressman, got the remainder. He's a good man. He never really stood a chance in that race, however it seems. Meanwhile, Nancy Guthrie, still gone. I mean, that was the big headline for a considerable period of time. She's gone. Nobody knows where. It's a strange case. Regardless how you feel about any of it, it's a strange case, isn't it? To me, it's really unsettling that something like that can happen. But she has not been found. The investigation, I would say it's fair to say it's stalled. It is stalled, all right? How's the weather in your neck of the woods? Here it's been a bit schizophrenic. 20 degrees, 50 degrees. 19 degrees, 45 degrees. Anyhow, the best way to combat that is to be like Anthony. That's what, to be like Anthony. Own a muskox flannel. He wears it every day.
4 of them like Anthony.
Yeah, own 4 of them like Anthony. They're the best. Muskox, it's an American company. Best flannel shirts you're ever going to own, bar none. There's a QR code on your screen. Check it out. This company's from Detroit, and they make the best flannel shirt I've ever owned. It's been named the #1 flannel shirt by Gear Junkie magazine for 4 or 5 years now. The Gruber team wears them every day. You should have one, too. Go muskox.com. Promo code Gruber. You'll save $15. It is an investment. It is an investment, but it's one you're going to love, and you can send me an email at stevegruber.com afterwards. Go muskox.com. Support the home team. I'll take a break and be back. This is The Steve Gruber Show.
From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
And welcome back as we dive back into it, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. We do it every single day, fighting for America. We may agree, we may disagree, but we have the conversations right here every day so you can decide for yourself. Here are three big things to hear this hour. Number one, President Trump says he will soon be endorsing either Senator John Cornyn or Attorney General Ken Paxton in Texas, as they are now in a runoff to be the Republican nominee for the Texas Senate seat. He's asking the other to drop out. Number two, 74 retired U.S. generals and admirals have signed a letter supporting the United States military action against the rogue regime of Iran. They all agree that Tehran posed a threat to American interests and to American military personnel and so much more. And number three, what about the threat of violence here in America? What about it? Do you think about it? Because I do. So far, it's been limited to that bar attack in Austin, Texas, where an immigrant from Africa killed 3 people in a brazen attack, college kids, all while wearing a sweatshirt with the message "Property of Allah" emblazoned across the front, wearing a T-shirt with the flag of Iran underneath, and the FBI saying, well, we're still trying to figure out what the motive was. Really? His social media pages make it quite clear what his motive was. He hates America. He was an Islamist fundamentalist, and that's that. End of investigation. What's concerning is the lack of knowledge of the dangers we face, especially with the government shutdown. It's keeping DHS from being funded, including the TSA, the Coast Guard, and others, but do Democrats know what they're doing? Do they? And do they care? That's the real question. Senator Blumenthal, right? Senator Blumenthal is asked about sleeper cells in America. He looks completely dumbfounded. This is really shocking. All right? If you missed this yesterday, listen.
In light of potential sleeper cells now here in the U.S. and the necessity to ensure the safety of American citizens, can you just explain how continuing to keep DHS shut down and unfunded is beneficial?
Sleeper cells? I'm not sure I understood the question.
In light of the Iran attack, sleeper cells, people who are let in under Biden, the millions of aliens let in, can you explain, how the American people aren't protected when DHS is still shut down?
Well, I haven't seen evidence of sleeper cells, and certainly no evidence that sleeper cells are related to recent immigrants under the Biden administration or the Trump administration. There certainly is a need for vigilance about our national security, no question, in light of what is happening in the Middle East.
Senator Richard Blumenthal. Sleeper cells? Huh? Sleeper cells? I was just taking a nap. Yeah, great, Senator. That guy acts like he has no idea what she's talking about, because I don't think he does. I mean, at the country club in his gated community, they don't have sleeper cells. Apparently. I mean, how unsettling is that? Meanwhile, the closure of DHS is shameless and reckless. Speaker Mike Johnson says Democrats have been ordered to keep DHS closed. There's a vote coming up later today. He says they're going to vote to keep it closed. Brilliant. Here it is.
From Democrats with their radical ideology and the mess that President Trump and Republicans are working in earnest to clean up so we can save American lives and protect the homeland. And now we have, look, DHS is not just ICE and CBP, okay? It's so many agencies responsible for keeping us safe. You're talking about the Coast Guard, you're talking about FEMA, our cybersecurity infrastructure, our counterterrorism coordination, all of that is at stake right now, and the Democrats are going to vote tomorrow not to fund those operations. Just think of that. Massive mission critical functions, especially right now. And the military action in Iran makes it all more urgent and crucial to have a fully funded, fully staffed DHS across all its departments. They cannot argue otherwise. It's madness.
It is madness. I mean, how would you look? Airports, planes, the Coast Guard protecting us here. And the Coast Guard is a lot more robust than most people realize. The Coast Guard's operating all over this country every single day, and they're not being paid. Thank you, Democrats, for that. Meanwhile, looking to the war in Iran, Senator Lindsey Graham, not my favorite. Just to be clear, not my favorite. But he says, have no mercy on the Iranian regime. Go.
So we need to have the approach to this like we did in World War II. This is a terrible mothership of terrorism regime that's killed Americans since 1979, terrorized the region, and it's on the verge of collapse. And I want to congratulate Donald Trump and his team for putting together the most impressive military plan I have ever seen. What's coming in the coming days from us is going to be a lot bigger than it's been in the last couple of days. The Arabs are in the fight now, so stay tuned. What's coming toward the remnants of the regime is going to be overwhelming. The liberation of Iran is at hand.
And yesterday during this program, we aired a good portion of Secretary of War Pete Hegseth's comments. They came at 8 o'clock yesterday morning, and he says, we're going to fight on. And he also hammers Hakeem Jeffries about what's going on in Iran. Listen to this.
Bex, right here.
Secretary Hegseth, with respect to House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries' statement that the Iran mission will end in failure, what kind of message does that send to our enemies, and what does it do to the motivation of our troops?
Well, I've been through that movie before with the Democrats rooting against the country. Our generation saw that in our battlefields. I think it's pretty unprecedented and unfortunate that it would occur 4 days in to an operation where, as the chairman laid out, America's best are operating in an incredibly challenging environment where they're having incredible success, but they're meeting a determined adversary. And he's been privy to briefs that we've provided. He knows how effective this has been. He's being disingenuous, which we're used to right here.
Thank you for taking my question.
Frightening, isn't it? The Democrats want this to be a political cudgel. They want the war in Iran to be something they can use to win votes. And this is unbelievable to me. They're rooting for us to fail. They are rooting for us to fail. People like Hakeem Jeffries. I'm not saying all Democrats, certainly not John Fetterman or Jared Golden in Maine. But the majority are openly hoping that this Trump policy fails, bringing this to a close after 47 years. And that is beyond shameful. It really is. I'm old enough to remember that America used to come together, whether we agreed with the war or not. Listen, all Americans were against involvement in World War I. They opposed involvement in World War II until Pearl Harbor. And so being against war is an American theme. But when war starts, historically, we all get together on the same page. We should be doing that again and hope for the very best and the best outcome possible, not this. All right? I'll take a break and be right back. It is The Steve Gruber Show. All right, back to it now. The headlines from the war, day 5 or day 6, whatever we are now. Iran's foreign minister says the United States will, quote, bitterly regret the sinking of its prized warship. If you missed it, for the first time since World War II, a U.S. submarine has sunk an enemy ship with a torpedo. It was pretty dramatic footage, to say the least, as we took out that ship. Meanwhile, the UK reversing course on Iran as suspected drones hit a British base in Cyprus. They said, that's it, we're in. But where were they before? The UK is so weak-willed, so is the EU, so is NATO. Not what they're supposed to be, that's for sure. Disappointing. The Iran leadership has been decapitated. No supreme leader has been announced that I'm aware of, so we continue to keep an eye on all these activities in the Middle East. Right now, the United States has complete dominance of the air and the sea. And one thing you'll notice, we have not touched the Iranian oil fields. We have not touched the Iranian oil fields, and that's important, more so for China than it is for us. China relies on Iranian oil. They relied on Venezuelan oil as well. This is a real pinch to China, twice in a few weeks. It's been 8 weeks roughly since we took out Maduro in Venezuela, and now the supreme leader has been taken out in Iran. And the Strait of Hormuz remains incredibly important. 20% of the world's oil flows through there, much of it going straight to China. Now, Lloyd's of London pulled all of its insurance for these oil tankers. And the United States says, that's fine, we'll step up, we'll cover it, and we'll give escort to oil tankers by the United States Navy. You see, Donald Trump has a plan here, despite what Democrats may tell you. Donald Trump has a plan here to protect the oil so that the world economy keeps chugging along. The price of oil, as a result, it spiked some, then it came back some. It's about $10 higher now than it was a week ago. Gas up about 30 to 35 cents a gallon, depending on where you live. Some places higher, some places less. But as you look at the price of oil today, I can tell you that oil is at $77 a barrel. It was about $67, $68 a barrel a week ago. And so there you have it. It is a critical concern that the oil keeps flowing because it impacts the economy, not just here, but around the world. All right. We're going to shift gears now. Congresswoman Erin Houchin from Indiana's 9th Congressional District is with me because with all the things going on in Iran, there is other business to be held as well. And she joins me to talk about one of the things she's pushing through. Congresswoman, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You have the Safe Bots Act and the AWARE Act. We talk about this on this program all the time. The threat to children from AI and bots and information, and we've seen these AI programs, hey, they become your friend, and then they have even suggested, hey, here's how suicide would work. I mean, it's reprehensible, and hopefully some of these acts of yours that you're putting forward are bipartisan and will protect the children. Your thoughts?
Yes, thank you. It's an emerging threat to our children. We passed the Kids Online Privacy Protection Act Congress did in 1996. It set a standard of 13-year-olds being able to access the internet, thinking that middle school students were going to be utilizing that for homework. That has transitioned into social media apps that are dangerous for our kids, as well as now these AI chatbots. So we are on a mission to keep kids under the age of 16 without parental consent from being on these apps. And then the Safe Bots and AWARE Act, let's make parents aware of these dangers, teachers aware of these dangers, and let's put in protections at the platform level that protect kids. Things like if a child talks about any kind of self-harm, that will trigger them to have access to a real person and resources. It reminds people that they're not talking to a real person, that they're talking to an AI, not a therapist, not a doctor, not a friend, not a companion, not a boyfriend or girlfriend. These apps should not be available to children, but when they are available to our older teens, we need to have these safeguards in place.
Something else you did here recently that I want to commend you for, you introduced the Delilah Act. to prevent illegal aliens from obtaining CDLs. I mean, we just watched this a bit earlier in the program. The guy driving the wrong way down the highway with an 18-wheeler, a Somalian, couldn't even pass basic traffic signs when asked about it, couldn't even figure it out. We've seen these horrible accidents in Florida and all over the country. This is really important too, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And in our home state of Indiana, we've had multiple accidents as well. This has been an issue for many years. Even back when I was in the state legislature, we have had both Republicans and Democrats who have wanted to grant illegal aliens driver's licenses, but the standards for granting those licenses were much less than what my own daughter had to do when she was 16 to get a driver's license. It's very lax regulations, basically saying you are who you say you are with an affidavit, you are the age you are, and you know how to drive. Some
Right.
states have very lax CDL requirements, and they are granting these CDLs, and then these drivers are all over the roadways throughout the country, and it's causing very dangerous roadways. So we're partnering with Jim Banks, our senator from Indiana, to lead Delilah's Law, and we're proud to do that. It's much needed. It's easier for an illegal immigrant to get a CDL than it is for one of our veterans to leave the military with a military CDL and get a commercial driver's license. That's ridiculous and dangerous.
It certainly is. So two fine efforts, the AWARE Act, the Safe Bots Act, and the Delilah Act. I hope all of these get through, Congresswoman. Thank you for being here. It's good work. Even in the shadow of everything else that's going on, these things have to be done, and we appreciate the work you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really appreciate it. There you have it from Indiana 9. That's Aaron Houchin, member of Congress. I'm going to take a break and be right back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Let me know what you think. Go to stevegruber.com. Send me an email. Say, here's what I think should be done in this country to make it a better place. stevegruber.com. Drop me a note today. I try to read them all. I'll do my best, and I'll be back. All right, so here's a ruling out of the Supreme Court, a victory for the Trump administration. Unanimous, by the way, authored by Ketanji Brown Jackson, it is. The Supreme Court Wednesday ruled unanimously that immigration courts must defer to executive agencies on key findings of fact during immigration proceedings. It's not a big win, but it's a modest win. It's a procedural win for the Trump administration. Ketanji Brown Jackson, writing for the majority, wrote, "We granted certiorari to determine whether the Court of Appeals applied the appropriate standard for review under INA. We conclude that the statute requires application of the substantial evidence standard. The agency's conclusion that a given set of undisputed facts do not constitute persecution. Accordingly, we affirm." So once again, the Trump administration wins in the nation's high court. This case involved a national from El Salvador who testified that he had been targeted by a hitman in his home country. Despite finding the testimony credible, the lower court found that it did not meet the standard for granting asylum under the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965. 1965. Man, there was a lot of stuff passed in 1965 that impacts us to this very day. That's a fact. You almost wonder if the cards were stacked against us right from the beginning. You'd have to wonder. Great coffee is a great way to start your day. 1775 coffee. A high-performance coffee is 1775. Boiled, full-bodied, supercharged. Yeah, so we drink a lot of coffee here. I drink 1775 coffee. It's my morning fuel. Keeps me strong, sharp, and unstoppable. No fillers, no fluff, just darn good coffee. And trust me, you're going to like it. Single origin. It's bold. It's smooth. And it's woke-free. There you go. See, this is like a professional thing. Anyhow, 1775coffee.com right now. Use the promo code Gruber. You'll save 10%. It's what's in my coffee. Here it is, folks. 1775coffee.com. Promo code Gruber, save 10%. And right now, coffee is expensive, so saving 10%, that's a big deal. I'll take a break and be right back. It's been too quiet for me. Too quiet for me. Look, sleeper cells concern me. Lone wolves concern me. Keep your head on a swivel is my advice. Right? Look, it's a dangerous time. A lot going on in Iran. We've got people here that came in illegally. We don't know what they're up to. We've got people that were born and raised here that have been radicalized. And we don't know what they're up to. Joining me now is Tim Beard, former CIA operations officer, a Marine Corps captain as well. Tim, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me on, Steve. Appreciate the opportunity.
An everyday playbook for safety in a dangerous world. Look, there are more concealed carry permits in America today than there have ever been. The largest number, the fastest growing group is women carrying concealed in this country. Many states have constitutional carry now. In Michigan here, we still need a license, if you will, and that's okay. A lot of people have them, but it is well, you wouldn't be surprised, sir, if today you heard about a terrorist attack, a lone wolf attack, a coordinated attack. None of it would surprise me or anybody else for that matter. That's why you have to be so vigilant, right?
It is. And that's what I talk about in my book series, the Look Twice book series. It's about planning and preparation. It's about awareness. There's 3 books. The first one really goes into dealing with being in the moment, being aware, paying attention. A lot of folks don't realize, first off, your audience, they can do this. It's not hard. It's doing the fundamentals, the basics, doing them right every single time. So put the phone away. If you have your phone, you're walking down the street, you're exposed, you're staring at your phone, you've just given up all your awareness. People can sneak right up on you. You have no idea what's happening around you. If you're wearing headphones, if you're wearing earbuds, take them out. If you need to use your phone, what I'd like you to do is go into what I call a hard point. Drop into a coffee shop. Drop into a grocery store. Put your back to a wall. That way you only have to control 180 degrees of your view. No one's going to sneak up behind you, and you can use your phone as much as you want. But Steve, I'll tell you, if someone thinks about playing football or hockey or basketball while wearing headphones and staring at your phone, think how that's going to work out. That's what's going to happen on the street if an adversary wants to come and do something bad to you.
All right, so let's say you go and sit down at that coffee shop or a restaurant, right? And you've got your back to the wall. I always sit that way, by the way. I always look at the door. When I walk in, I kind of just do a quick scan. And this comes from friends of mine that were in law enforcement. And I noticed that this one friend I've had for years and years, he would never put his back to the door, ever. He was a detective for the state police for many, many years. And he always had a lay of the land. And he just said, look, you got to know where the easiest exit is. Maybe it's through the kitchen. Maybe it's out a side door. Whatever it is, know the lay of the land. When you get on an airplane, they tell you where the exits are. In the world out here, you have to determine where the exits are, don't you?
You do. And most places are going to have more than one exit. That's a challenge to, for example, if you live in a condominium, there's one way in, one way out. If you're way up in the sky in a high-rise condominium, that can be a challenge. If you go into a coffee shop and it's a regular place that you go, you need to own that coffee shop as far as the knowledge. You walk in, you choose a table where you can see who else comes in behind you. You want to know where they're going to get their deliveries. It's likely not through the front door, which means they're going to have another entrance exit someplace else. If it's a larger establishment, there may be a third exit. You need to know where the different exits are, know how you can get in and out because you're spending your time there. You need to develop what I call a baseline. A baseline is where you, for around your home, your workplace, where you study, where you worship, where you spend your time, where you play, where you shop, at a shopping mall or a strip mall. You want to know where you can get in and out. You want to know what is normal. And when something starts to deviate from what's normal, because you're paying attention, you're being in the moment after hearing this conversation, then you start to have your plan. You say, all right, this is weird. I'm going to really pay attention. This warrants further investigation. If it's too weird, I'm going to leave right now. I'm going to go away because we call that mitigating risk. And this is the thing.
What you're saying here, Tim, if I might, what you're saying here, honestly, is trust your gut. If you look around and you're not comfortable, or somebody looks, you're looking at somebody that walks in and you're like, something about that person seems hinky, doesn't seem right. You extract yourself from possible harm by just trust your gut. That doesn't mean be paranoid. It means be smart, right?
It does. And that's a great point you just made, Steve. You don't want to be paranoid. You don't want to always be on edge. You want to think about what I'll term the possible versus the probable. Is it a possible threat? A meteor could fall on me right now. I'm not going to worry about that. I don't care because it's possible, but I'm not going to waste my limited resources and my limited energy and focus on something that's only possible. I'm going to pick the 3 or 4 things in a particular situation that are probable, that are more likely to happen. And then I'm going to deal with those things. I'm going to put my focus on that. When you mentioned the detective friend you had who goes into a coffee shop, for example, there's a system that he's probably using that I use. I call it the traffic light system. So when I walk into a store or I walk onto a subway platform or I walk into a coffee shop, I do a very quick scan. And I'm going to quickly say, all right, there's an 80-year-old grandmother on her walker, green. I'm not too worried about it. It's not a threat to me. There is somebody acting a little strange, or it's a little bit concerning, maybe their behavior deviates from my baseline, that's yellow. I'm going to keep an eye on it. Somebody who's talking to themselves, somebody who is getting violent, if I see gang colors, things like that, that's red. Time to leave right now. And you quickly sort every place you go, use that traffic light system. That's really going to help your audience be safer very quickly.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is this. I mentioned concealed carry in this country. If you do carry, I recommend that you are proficient with the equipment. It is a tool in case of emergency. That's what it is. And so just because you have a concealed carry permit doesn't mean you're proficient. Make sure that under high-stress situations, you can still perform if needed to protect yourself or the people with you or the people in that coffee shop. That's my advice, but I didn't write the book. You did. The book is called Look Twice. It's a series. Tell folks where they can find these books.
If they go to timbeardauthor.com, that's my author website. They'll see my picture there, so they'll know that it's the right place. They can read a little about my background, and there's a link from there. It tells about all 3 books. The third one will be out 10 March on Tuesday. And there's a link from there to my author, Amazon Author Central page, and they can purchase the books there at a local independent bookstore, whatever they choose.
There you go. Good stuff. Tim Beard, really appreciate you being here. I'll have you back because I think these are rules of the road, if you will. And we need those more than ever because you never know where the threat's coming from. Tim Beard, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.
Look twice. Situational awareness. Be vigilant. Just don't trust the situation. I never put my back to the door. Ivy knows that. She goes, oh, yeah, you need to sit there. That's right. Got to look out. Got to be aware of what's going on. And he's right. The cell phone, the earbuds, all the distractions. How do you know what's going on if you're just completely distracted? The answer is you don't. So pay attention. Be safe out there. I'll be right back. It was about $67 before our strikes on Iran. It's at $76 today for WTI, West Texas Intermediate. I thought we would see more. I guess part of that is because we produce a lot more oil here in the United States than we ever have. The number one producer of oil in the world, our natural gas supplies are massive, and we're starting to tap into those. Energy security, energy dominance. Energy dominance has been key for the success of America my entire life, and it's never been more real than it is today. Larry Behrens is joining me. He is the energy expert and the communications director for Power of the Future. Larry, welcome back.
Hey, Steve, great to talk with you.
I'm a little surprised. I thought oil was going to spike more. I did. The Strait of Hormuz, critical pinch point, 20% of the world's oil goes through there. And then Lloyd's of London canceled all their insurance policies. One place carries the insurance policies for the whole world. They canceled them. And Donald Trump in the United States said, you know what, we'll step in there. We'll take care of that. And we'll give you naval escorts. So the Strait of Hormuz, despite the claims from Iran, the traffic is down, but so far it has been reasonably safe. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think it's time for another insurance company to maybe step in there and see some market share in that area as well. But the point is here that the oil was supposed to shoot up if we used conventional wisdom from 15, 20 years ago. But American energy dominance has changed the parameters here. And so just for a little perspective, in January of 2022, before Russia invaded Ukraine, oil was already at $83 a barrel. For those who can do the math barely like I can, that is actually higher than it is right now as we go through a crisis. After Russia's invasion of Ukraine, oil shot up 40% after that. And the reason was the United States was producing about 2 million barrels less than we are right now. Venezuela's oil is coming back on the market. So we have a lot of places to hedge in supply. And your stat is correct. About 20% of the world's oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz, but that doesn't mean it's 20% of American oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz. It's mostly China that's feeling this pinch right now, Europe a little bit as well, but we get 60% of our oil from ourselves, the rest mostly from Canada and Mexico. And so the Strait of Hormuz doesn't really affect us, and that's what American energy dominance does.
Yeah, you know who made money on this deal? The oil companies. Because the price of gasoline in Michigan went up 50 cents. And according to all metrics, gas, if oil goes up about $10, up about $9 now, gas should only go up 25 cents per $10 per barrel. But seems like the gas companies cashed in. Am I wrong? Am I just cynical?
Well, maybe not. But the question is, they have to look at what their next truckload is going to cost, and they may not know that. And so if they're looking at a price maybe going up a little bit, as you mentioned, it has got up $9, $10 since this crisis began. So maybe they're looking at, well, we don't know what it's going to be in a week or two when our tanks are low and we get the next delivery. So we have to hedge on that. But part of it is maybe they're trying to get a little bit of opportunity in there as well. Or maybe they just see it coming down the road and they change the sign real quick. Maybe it's the Steve searcher.
Let me ask you about an anomaly, and this is an anomaly. The price of electricity all over this country, Larry, is going through the roof because you have monopolies that run the power companies in every state, right? You have, PG&E, you've got American Electric Power, whoever it is, right? But in Indiana, they're cutting the price of electricity. It's happening this week. What is going on in Indiana that we should all be looking at to say, how are they doing that when the Northeast is pinched, when Michigan is pinched, when California is pinched? What's up?
I think you know exactly what's up. Under Joe Biden, we lost about 53 gigawatts of electric generation in fossil fuel plants, particularly in the Northeast and, of course, in California as well. So when they took reliable baseload power off the grid, then that shoots bills through the roof. And just for perspective, that's enough energy to power about 44 million American homes. And that's before we even start talking about AI and data centers. And so when you look at what they took off the grid and replaced it with unreliable wind and energy, then yeah, those bills are going to shoot up. Indiana looks like they chose a different path and their customers are in a better position right now.
Absolutely. Here in Michigan, we're about to do something that's never been done before. We took a nuclear power plant that was mothballed and brought it back out. That's never been done. The Palisades nuclear plant is going to go back online here in the next few weeks. It's been mothballed for a few years now. But Governor Whitmer, a Democrat, working with the Trump administration in the first term and then through Biden's administration, said, we need this plant back. and it's going to happen. That's remarkable. That's realizing that windmills and solar panels are not the answer, correct?
Absolutely. And you saw President Trump announce earlier this week that when these, or even yesterday, that when these tech companies are going to build their data centers, they have to bring their own power with them. And I will bet you that when they put down a data center and they have a Trump approved power source with it, they're not going to rely on wind or solar to keep their data centers running. They're going to rely on something that is there when the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow. And so for after all these years of them trying to force us down, the wind and solar path, well, lo and behold, when they need power, they're going to choose something that's reliable. And we should be doing that as well.
They're going to choose something called modular nuclear is what they're going to choose. We saw this happen here just a few weeks ago. They flew a nuclear reactor about the size of an SUV from California to Utah for further testing. The fact is we have the technology now, Larry, and in fact, Mr. Fusion, isn't that what it was called in Back to the Future where they're stuffing, banana peels? All right, look, that was just crazy talk then, but today you could have a nuclear generator the size of a shoebox or smaller. It could power a house. Something a little bigger could power a community. We have the technology. We're going forward with energy. Larry, last word to you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right in that area. And let's just talk about the damage the Biden administration did to that. When you say that you can only choose wind and solar, that stifles innovation in any number of other areas as well, including small modular reactors, including better natural gas and more efficient coal electricity. And so there was a lot of innovation that was stamped under. Not anymore. American energy dominance is here.
It's a bright new day. See, we've got good news for you on the program today. Larry, always good to have you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Steve.
Greatly appreciate it. Look, a lot of good things. And he was right. The point that he just made there, you should underline. When you say it's only wind and only solar, you stifle innovation. Well, don't do that. Let people create new ideas, new opportunities. Modular nuclear is what will carry us into the future. Mark my words. Brock Paulbush will carry us through sports after the break. Mark my words. Two members of Congress in one program. All right, let's check it on sports with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. There were 6 games in the NBA last night. Winners included Charlotte, Philadelphia, Portland, and Oklahoma City. In the NHL, there were 5 games. Winners were New Jersey, Carolina, St. Louis, Vegas, and Anaheim. In men's college basketball, top 25 winners included 7th-ranked Houston, 15th-ranked Purdue, 20th-ranked Arkansas, and 22nd-ranked Miami of Florida. In women's college basketball, just one top 25 game. 17th-ranked Kentucky blew out Arkansas 94-64. Hall of Fame college football coach Lou Holtz passed away yesterday, surrounded by his family in Orlando, Florida, in hospice. Holtz led Notre Dame to their last national championship in 1988. He also had successful stints at North Carolina State, Arkansas, Minnesota, and South Carolina before becoming a TV analyst at ESPN. Holtz was 89 years old. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you for that. Lou Holtz, we were talking about this earlier. I mean, he coached a lot of places, but we remember him really for one thing. Notre Dame. And those Notre Dame-Michigan games back then, they were legendary, weren't they?
Notre Dame, Michigan, Notre Dame, Michigan State, Notre Dame, Miami, Notre Dame, USC.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, brilliant. He had his faults, but a absolute brilliant motivator and brilliant coach, and the tributes coming in from his former players like Jerome Bettis and Tim Brown, former Heisman Trophy winner, or just speak glowingly of him.
Yeah. He built men. He would never have fit in the NIL world.
Nope.
And by the way, I'm doing some research now, speaking of NIL. The damage it is doing to other sports, especially women's sports, is going unreported, but it's going to be reported here. Because when you pay a quarterback $10 million, you don't have travel money for the women's sports teams that don't generate money. So Title IX is being very negatively impacted, Brock. You'll hear a series on that coming up.
Okay.
Think about it. Okay. The money's being taken out of lesser sports, if you will. Not that they're lesser, but they're lesser when it comes to financial
meaning non-revenue sports, it's what it's called.
Non-revenue sports, you got it. They're getting pinched badly, especially women's sports. No travel budgets, things like that. We'll take a break and be back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Nice to see you today. Send me an email with anything on your mind at stevegruber.com. I'll be back.
From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
Lighting the fuse on another big hour here, the Steve Gruber Show. Glad you're on board with us. Fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom every single day. Glad to have you here as we continue on. Three big things this hour. From sea to shining sea, the Freedom Plane is flying all over America. It's coming to Michigan as well. Have you heard about this? We're going to tell you about it. All sorts of historical documents on America's 250th birthday making its way around the country. Number two, pressure mounting on voter ID laws in Michigan and around the country as the SAVE Act lingers. We'll keep an eye on that. And number three, the war in Iran obviously has been bad for the Iranian regime. Clearly, we don't know who the new supreme leader is going to be. They gathered to pick a new supreme leader. There were 88 people in the room for breakfast. Yeah, they're all gone, too. They got hit by a missile. I think that came from Israel. So the supreme leader taken out. The supreme leaders in waiting, all taken out. Yeah, all taken out. The heir apparent gone. So who is running Iran? The IRCG, I guess. And it was separated out. 31 provinces in Iran, okay? And so in 2009, the supreme leader decentralized the Iranian Revolutionary Guard so that they had operation centers in all 31 provinces, making it harder to knock them down. And so therefore you've got this power base in each of the 31 provinces. Now, I don't know how strong each province is. We get information from inside Iran, but it's scattered and it's sketchy and it's incomplete because of the blackout of internet service, for example. Some people are getting some videos out. Some people are getting some information out, but it is limited. And the question is, can any of these other groups, the MEK or others, take over a province? We'll keep an eye on that because if that happens, if a province falls, it's no longer under the control of the IRCG, that would be a real morale boost for those that are trying to say, we're done with this. We're sick and tired after 47 years of having our women abused, of being hung for having a different political view, for being attacked for not being Muslim. Christians, of course, under attack. But the biggest Christian population, the fastest growing Christian population in the Middle East is in Iran. Now, they do it underground, but they're doing it. Now, one of the other big losers, and I've talked about this at length, and it's certainly true, China could be a big loser here. So far, they're not. Because so far, those oil tankers have not been attacked, have not been sunk, have not been stopped. The Strait of Hormuz is only 20 miles wide. It's a pinch point. 20% of the world's oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz right there on the southern tip of Iran. Iran said, we're going to close the Strait of Hormuz. Well, you can't anymore because you don't have a Navy. The Navy's sitting at the bottom of the sea, including that ship that was sunk in the Indian Ocean. First time an American warship has sunk an enemy ship with a torpedo since World War II. Dramatic footage if you haven't seen it. That ship, the pride of the Iranian Navy, buckled like a beer can. It's pretty remarkable. But China seems to be getting burned more than anybody else, potentially. Listen to this.
First thing I looked at, Steve, when we attacked Iran to see what happened to Karg Island. Karg Island, Iran's main oil export terminal, was in flames. And that means China's oil lifeline from the Ayatollah was going up in smoke. That's very important because it means a lot of things. It means, first of all, the Iranians can't get money from China, which was half of their budget. It means, secondly, that BRICS is probably dead because they were paying Iran in renminbi, cheap Chinese currency. They could print it at will. Now that is gone, they'll have to pay in dollars again. They'll need tens of billions of dollars to pay for oil. Trump is smiling, said, we'll be happy to sell them oil. Well, yeah, and they'll be paying in dollars. So BRICS is dead. The dollar will remain the dominant currency.
The petrodollar, as they call it there, the petrodollar. BRICS, by the way, was this alliance with Brazil, Russia, Iran, China, and others to not use the American dollar anymore. You see, oil has been sold in American dollars since the 1970s. The petrodollar is incredibly important for this country, that oil is sold in dollars, and now we're returning to that because they have no other choice. So BRICS seems to be dead. I think he's right about that. Peter Schweitzer, by the way, who will be on our podcast, Forgotten America, next week, talking about the invisible coup, which is an invasion from those south of the border. He also says how damaging the hits on oil in Venezuela have been, and now Iran, on China. Listen.
Think about this. China provided them their most advanced air defense systems to Iran, totally decimated by the United States and the Israelis. China's invested more than $100 billion in Iran in industrial energy projects, et cetera, much of that in loans to the Iranian government. They're not going to get that back. With both Venezuela and Iran, Donald Trump has effectively taken 20% of China's oil supply and reshuffled it. And here's the thing to remember. They were buying that oil as a discount because both Iran and Venezuela are sanctioned, and they were able to buy it not with U.S. dollars. One of their big goals has been to move away from U.S. being the global currency. They're now going to have to go back into the global oil market and buy things with U.S. dollars. So this is a disaster for China on multiple stages, and Donald Trump has shifted the discussion that he's going to have with President Xi when they meet in China almost entirely.
Yeah, there you go. Look at that. The world is changing. And by the way, an Iranian woman, a journalist, continues to say this is a great thing for the world. Iranians continue to celebrate the fall of the regime, at least so far. Listen to this.
This is the best decision that we have ever seen by the United States of America. This is the true leadership. This is the reaction of my people in Iran. You know, for the first time when I heard Ali Khamenei was killed, I was bombarded with different emotions, like millions of Iranians. For many who hear me, your audience in America, maybe this is a story of like miles away from America, but this is my life story. Ali Khamenei ordered my killings 3 times. This is the guy who ordered massacre. More than 32,000 people have been killed. We lost everything: our homeland, our freedom, our family members, our safety. And that's the right decision to remove terrorists. But I have to say, I am tired of seeing some politicians here in America, especially Democrats, making this about their own politics, scoring political points like Kamala Harris. Suddenly, she kept quiet about the massacre. Suddenly, she found a voice condemning the targeted military strike against the killers. So when ordinary people get massacred, you don't have any problem? Who are you?
Who are you? Democrats. Former Democrat there. Pretty remarkable, isn't it? The latest polling from Fox News, 50% for the Iran strikes, 50% against. That's an improvement, by the way. I'll take a break and be right back. All right, so the new podcast, Forgotten America, we're 3 weeks in. We've got a whole bunch of great guests already recorded for you coming out. They drop every Monday morning at 9 a.m. on YouTube. Go there, become a subscriber, smash that like button, and you're going to find some interesting conversations. The one this week that's on right now, and of course they're all there, cataloged. The library's there. But Tiffany Ciance is an activist against private equity. All right, and not all private equity is bad, but a lot of it, frankly, is. And private equity went out and bought everything you love. They bought the veterinary offices. They bought the old folks' homes. They buy up HVAC companies and plumbing companies and electrical companies, and they make it appear as if they're still mom-and-pop operations when they're really not. They keep the images, they keep the likeness, they keep the name, they keep the logo, and they'll go into an area, and this is basically a regional monopoly. For example, they'll go and buy the HVAC companies in an area. They'll buy 10 or 15 or 20 of them. So basically, if you're a person living there and you get a broken furnace, you're in a corner, because if you go to the furnace company and say, I need this fixed, they show up and they say, it's $2,000. Well, I can't afford that. I've worked with you guys for 25 years. And they say, well, that's the price. So you call the next person down the line, that's $2,000. The next person down the line is $2,000, because they're all owned by the same company and they own the finance company to boot. Oh, we'll finance you at 9.5% or whatever. So you can make payments on it, and they own that as well. Here's something else they own: adventure parks. And one of the adventure parks, now she did not name names of the private equity companies that own these places, but it's important to understand. These adventure parks have accidents. But when you sign in to get your ticket, right, you sign that little screen, you buy your ticket, you're waiving your rights to sue anybody. You get arbitration only, and you get a non-disclosure agreement. You signed and agreed to it when you bought your ticket. And if you don't agree to it, you don't get a ticket. Okay? So if you're a parent taking your kid to an adventure park that's had problems, you don't get to know about that. Zip lines are a problem. Listen to this.
And a bunch of documents were sent to me that showed that this company was cutting corners to get more money from their private equity investors and violating children's safety, putting the safety of children behind the need for more money. There were documents that showed that they were overriding their safety team to increase the metrics for their EBITDA for their next cash infusion. And when I got those documents, I started publishing them, because I found out that children were falling off of zip lines in these parks all across America.
Falling off zip lines.
They have zip lines that are 35 feet above concrete floors and metal fences. And these children, what the document showed was that they were recommending cutting all the harness checkers on these zip lines, so the kids would get on and just jump up there and go. 35 feet off the ground. Children, 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 9-year-olds. And what happened was dozens of children started falling off these zip lines, and the injuries were catastrophic. A little girl named Mia was the first one that fell after the cuts. Mia broke multiple bones in her body, permanent brain damage.
It's despicable. And if you're a parent and you're going there with your kids or grandkids, don't you think you'd like to know that this park has a bad safety record, a bad track record, that people have fallen from the zip lines? 48 cases she found. 48 cases that she found of people falling from these zip lines. They got rid of the people putting the hook in to make sure it was safe. Saved them money, you see. And it's not just that. Private equity is also an investment for places like for pensions and so forth. Well, you'd think that they're making all this money. That'd be a good idea, right? Not so much. Listen.
Her pension's gone because it'll become an asset, and she's a minor creditor. But what matters more about the pensions is that's where most of the private equity firms are borrowing their money. It's from pensions. And so the pensions are losing everything right now all over the U.S. A really good example, the Oregon State teachers pension, they invested billions in private equity. And unfortunately, they were promised huge returns by the private equity firm when they were getting 0% interest rates. They're like, you're going to win huge. And so the pension for 10 years put on their books that they were shored up, that they had the money they needed to pay out the teachers. Well, when the returns finally came in, when that fund closed, they'd only made 4%. And during that same time period, the stock market had given almost 40% returns.
Another big problem. These are the kinds of conversations we're having on Forgotten America, ones that you want to hear. You're not going to hear this stuff anywhere else. Good stuff. And so that's Tiffany Cianci. She is the latest episode to drop of Forgotten America. Next week, it's Peter Schweitzer, the New York Times bestselling author. He wrote the book Clinton Cash, for example, pulling back the curtain on how much money the Clintons made for their global initiative and their Clinton Foundation and all of that. But next week, I should say, he's talking about the invisible coup. All of these people coming up from Mexico. Did you know there are members of the Mexican parliament that live in the United States? And why do they? Because their constituents also live in the United States. These are conversations you're just not going to hear anywhere else. Easy thing to do. It's up on your screen right now for those of you streaming. There's a QR code. It'll take you straight to YouTube. You can hear the entire conversation with Tiffany Cianci. It's more than an hour. I would have talked to this woman for 10 hours because it's jaw-dropping. QR code will take you straight to YouTube. You go to YouTube, you become a subscriber. Very easy. And then we'll drop a new episode every week for forever, I guess. Forever.
Or you can just type Steve Gruber in YouTube and it'll pop right up.
There it is. See, Anthony, he's a big fan. He's a super fan. Right, Anthony?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Jordan Wells was really good, too. Kyle Rittenhouse, the first one.
He was great. Yeah. And we've got some great guests coming up as well. Stuff that you're just not going to hear anywhere else. A detransitioner spends an hour with us about the horrors that she went through and the way she was misled by the medical community and so much and so much. Anyhow, Forgotten America. Just type in Steve Gruber at YouTube. You're going to find it. And, of course, you can see all the episodes of this program, great guests. It's a catalog. It's a library of knowledge for you on YouTube. All right? So go there now. Make sure you become a follower, a subscriber on YouTube, and become a fan. Slap that. What do you say? Smash the like button, Anthony? Yeah. The kids, you say, smash it. All right, I'll be right back. All right, so from sea to shining sea, this Freedom plane flying all over America, Freedom plane. This is a cool idea. It's for America 250, the Super Centennial, right? It's inspired by the historic Freedom Train of the bicentennial era. For those of you old enough to remember, I am. It went from Washington, D.C. to stand face-to-face with the documents that shaped our republic. The Freedom Plane National Tour will make documents fundamental to America's founding accessible to Americans across the country, making 8 stops in different cities, including the city of Dearborn, Michigan. It's interesting the places that they chose. Dearborn, Seattle. Interesting. Places that are not particularly right of center. They have the original engraving of the Declaration of Independence, 1823. The Articles of Association, 1774. George Washington and Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr's Oaths of Allegiance, 1778. The Treaty of Paris from 1783. The secret printing of the Constitution in draft form, 1787. The tally of votes approving the Constitution, 1787. The Senate markup of the Bill of Rights from 1789. This is worth seeing. They're flying these all over the country. The documents will not be replicas. They are the ink and parchment foundations of liberty, the very documents that declared independence, secured victory, and enshrined the freedoms Americans still cherish today, including you and me. The things we fight for on this program every day, for you to see in person. You don't have to travel to the nation's capital. It'll travel to a place hopefully close enough to you. 8 stops across the country, including Dearborn. I don't have a date for that. Let's see here. Oh, I do. The Dearborn stop scheduled from July 9th through the 26th at the Henry Ford Museum of American Innovation. There you have it. The Freedom Plane. What a cool idea, right? Putting it out there for everybody. When I come back, Congressman Jimmy Patronis will join me from Florida's 1st Congressional District, and he says why big tech accountability cannot wait any longer. AI, social media, big tech. Are they in it for you? No. They're in it for themselves. We have to protect you and me. We'll talk about it with the congressman after this. All right, back to it now. Big happenings on Capitol Hill when it comes to social media. All right? This is important stuff. How much power do these big tech companies have with social media? Look, we just talked about human trafficking on this program earlier today and what a problem it is and how it's powered by social media. and AI and bots giving kids advice to commit suicide. So much going on here that is dangerous to all of us. Look, social media can be a great thing. High tech can be a great thing, but it can also be very dangerous. Joining me now, Congressman Jimmy Patronis. He represents Florida's 1st Congressional District. Congressman, thank you for being here today.
Steve, thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. All right, we hear about Section 230 a lot, something that Donald Trump wanted to correct during his first term in office. Now he's back. And you say, quite simply, big tech accountability cannot wait. What is this Section 230? We hear about it, but please explain to the people why it's so important.
Sure. So Section 230 was created years ago as an order to give some liability protections to allow internet companies to get their footing. As we saw the need for internet, those predecessors to me in Congress gave this protection so these guys could grow this fantastic, ability to communicate, infrastructure, you name it. But here now where it's been exploited. So currently right now, I can't buy an ad on your show or any network or even a billboard for that matter to say inflict harm, okay? But I can go on social media and place an ad advocating for harm, potentially maybe even touching more people than I can on a billboard. And the social media companies have zero liability. So, where I'm sick and tired of, I'm a dad of 2 boys, is just seeing the type of harm that's being done. The apps are made sticky on purpose. We're getting testimony from constituents of our district where these moms are saying their devices are chatbots, these AI chatbots are doing sextortion with kids. So, I mean, the bad guys are going to use social media to do bad things. And unfortunately, social media companies and big tech are enabling it. This is why Section 230 needs to go.
They kick and scream and say, well, you can't do that. It's going to hurt us, and we can't police everything. Well, look, during COVID, they were able to police lots of folks. They silenced, they deplatformed, they put people out. If they didn't like your message, man, you were gone like that, and you know that. So for them to say now, well, we can't do this, that's just not credible, is it?
That's 100% accurate. Like I said, every parent who's got a child with a device knows the fights and struggles. I won't let my kids have TikTok. Look, TikTok is the greatest espionage tool in the history of the world. And so, I mean, if you want China in your living room every single night, monitoring your Alexa Dot, your smart TV, your coffee pot, you want it monitoring what's going on in your computers, go ahead and invite TikTok into your house. Again, it's made sticky on purpose. And the social media companies come and roll out these feel-good ideas. But right now, on an Apple phone, it's impossible to ban any social media app simply because it's a relationship of money between the device manufacturer and the social media company. So I mean, it's Apple and Android are just as bad, but it boils down to the social media companies and the content providers and how they're weaponizing it to hurt our kids.
Yeah, it's remarkable how much power these companies have, and you use the term sticky apps. That's the way they continue to doom scroll to the next video, to the next post, to the next everything. And TikTok, you're exactly right, powered by the Chinese Communist Party for years. I thought it had been sold. Jimmy, what happened?
So you got, I guess there's investors involved, but look, I'm not in privy to some of those conversations, but I have had the briefings of talking of the sophistication of how TikTok is able to get access to your devices. And sometimes, if you have TikTok, one thing I would encourage you to do is do not let it on your home Wi-Fi. That's probably the first bad thing. You're giving it the keys to your interior of your home and all the devices that exist in it.
Yeah, they sold us on smart this and smart that. Everything's interconnected. Yeah. Well, as far as I know, my toaster's now spying on me. Yeah, I don't need that. Look, I don't need that kind of pressure, Congressman. I got enough going on,
Sometimes it kind of makes me wish I just had a flip phone and a rotary dial landline at the house.
Amen to that.
Can I just have 13 channels on my TV? Anyway, but it boils down to the kids. When you get past 18, you know what? You're an adult. You can do what you want to do. And I try not to dwell on it. But I tell people this stuff is a digital fentanyl. It is a drug, one way or another, by hook or crook. Chinese is going to infiltrate us at all different levels. And, you know, hats off to them for figuring out the way to be able to do it and undermine so many different levels of our human development, starting with our kids.
Let me take that a step further. From rumblings I've been hearing from inside the Beltway there, that China used a lot of this high-tech ability that it has because they focus on these things. They have focus groups in Beijing or wherever in China designing messages for kids, but for adults as well, and their ability to interfere in American elections. Look, it was never Russia. It was always China, and it still is. So how do we protect ourselves?
So you literally, I've seen videos firsthand of where they'll have a room, and it's nothing but a room full of hundreds and hundreds of cell phones, and those cell phones are doing mass text out services. It is what it is. This is how they're getting into your phone, and the text has now become such a powerful way to connect with someone. If you wanted to send me a green bubble text on my phone, I've got it turned off. I don't want those things coming in. I think they're dangerous, but China realizes that, you know, even through a random digit dialing format, they can get into this. I was recently meeting with leaders of India and Thailand, and they're both fed up with the infiltration that's happening with their seniors being scammed on their devices. Now, this is a degree of separation from what our conversation started, but this is no different. By hook or crook, they're going to find ways to criminally take advantage of either the elderly or the young. You know, and we're sitting there allowing it to happen. And I think Section 230 is this wall that they hide behind that ultimately allows our kids to be taken advantage of, victimized, and even poisoned.
Yeah, from 9 to 90 and all points in between, basically, and that's a fact.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. We got about a minute left here. Do you have bipartisan support? Can this get done? Can this get through? Can we protect the kids and the elderly and everyone else? Last word to you.
Yeah, so I'm working it. You know, the bills of this nature. Look, we've got a one-seat majority in Congress, and I tell people all the time. I did some time in the state legislature. A good idea doesn't necessarily pass overnight. You got to go out and sell it. You got to convince your colleagues that this is important. You know, being able to have this time on the air with you is invaluable because there will be folks that will respond and reach out to their member of Congress simply because of our conversation today.
Yeah.
So I'm blessed to have your interest as we try to save our kids.
Yeah, Jimmy Patronis, Congressman, Florida 1. Keep doing the good work, Congressman. This is important. It's a heavy lift. We get that, but it is really important. Thank you for sharing today.
Take care, Steve. See you.
Really appreciate it. There you have it. Jimmy Patronis from Florida. We've got to protect the kids and the elderly from big tech. It's good stuff, but it can also be bad. I'll take a break. All right. It's called constitutional carry. If you are not otherwise prohibited from carrying a concealed weapon, you can go ahead and do so. You don't need a special permit. You don't need to pass a class. You don't have to have the stamp of approval of anyone except your constitutional rights. It is the fact and the law of the land in many states, not here in Michigan, but my next guest thinks it should be. Representative for the state of Michigan, District 99, Mike Hoadley, joining me. Mike, nice to see you.
Hey, good to see you again, Steve. Good morning.
Good morning. Constitutional carry. You know, I was not necessarily on board with this, but I've seen it happen in many states. I've seen no bad results as coming from this thus far. So what do you make of the idea of putting constitutional carry here, and why are we at this point in the conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there are 29 other states that have adopted this, right?
Yep.
And the United States Constitution and both the Michigan Constitution are explicit, and it's enshrined. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. In Michigan's Article 1, Section 6, it explicitly says, the right to be armed to defend yourself and the state of Michigan. So it's a little bit disingenuous when the state takes what's an enshrined right and then goes and makes that a privilege that they sell back to the citizen.
29 states, as you mentioned, but there are Democrats on the other side who are openly anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment. The mayor of Grand Rapids says you should be ashamed of yourself if you own a gun. I don't know if you heard that last week. You should be ashamed of yourself, which is, ridiculous, Mike, to me. But the fact of the matter is, it's a big hurdle to jump. You have control of the House in Michigan, but not the Senate, not the governor's office, obviously. So how do you get it there?
Well, I think what this does is opens up the conversation, right? And when we work with the gun advocacy groups, we'd hope to educate the public. Again, I gotta circle back to our constitutional rights, and for a mayor to avoid history and say we should be ashamed of exercising that right. And let me be perfectly clear: what this bill package does for constitutional carry, it does not allow criminals to carry. It just simply, like you pointed out in the beginning of this program, that it takes away the expensive permit process for law-abiding citizens to carry a gun. And what it'll also do is eliminate the confusion with open carry. As you may already know, Michigan's an open carry state. However, if you're open carrying, one, it's kind of taboo in public, right? And then the other is if you throw a jacket on, now that weapon's concealed and you're in violation of committing a 5-year felony. And with that too, there's oddities in that law too. You're open carrying, you get into your automobile. Well, again, now you're in violation of the law with concealed carry. You'd have to remove that weapon, put it in a case, remove the ammo, putting it in a spot that's at least 2 steps away from the firearm. So those are what I refer to as gotcha laws, where what they can do is make more law-abiding citizens felons that aren't allowed to own firearms.
Yeah, you're right about everything that you've said, Mike. The laws are confusing oftentimes. And so in Michigan, we have to make sure that we do things properly or you'll be in violation. If you don't store properly, and that's discretionary to me. I mean, that's a discretionary call depending on who the law enforcement officer is or who the prosecutor is. A lot of things up for debate on that. It's a good conversation to have because you're right. You can open carry. I can walk in and open carry in the supermarket. I think it is taboo. It's not my thing. I think it's I think it puts a lot of people off, and I think it pushes people to the wrong side of the conversation. They'll see that and say, oh, I don't support that, right? So you create anti-gun people just by, I don't know, bragging, I guess. And that's my position.
It leans into their narrative that we're going to turn this into the Wild West, right? And my take on this is concealed carry is a criminal deterrent because the bad guys aren't going to know which good guys have guns and and defend themselves, And I'll circle back too, for the public to know, this doesn't allow the criminal element to legally carry a firearm. nor does it allow those convicted of domestic violence to carry a firearm. Those laws are still in place. This just simply removes the expensive permit process for legal, law-abiding gun owners to conceal carry that weapon and not get caught up into the gotcha laws of open carry.
Yeah, you're exactly right what you said, Mike. The whole argument is going to be the Wild West. There'll be the OK Corral. No. You know, I lived in Ohio at the time that concealed carry was passed there. I lived in Michigan when concealed carry was passed here. That was the argument. There'll be blood in the streets. There'll be mass shootings. There'll be all these terrible carnage. And none of that ever happens. None of that ever happens. That's always been the argument. It's a bogus argument. It's a red herring, frankly. I'll give you the last word.
You know, in the cliche, right? If you outlaw guns and law-abiding citizens from being able to be armed, only the outlaws are going to be armed with those guns. So if you want to talk about the Wild West, you know, disallowing law-abiding citizens from being able to defend themselves with a firearm creates the Wild West in the criminal element.
Yeah. I'm guessing the citizenry of Iran wishes they had a Second Amendment today, and for 47 years. Just throwing that out for discussion. Anyhow, Mike, thank you for being here today. We'll see what happens. You've opened the conversation. We'll see where it goes from here. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Steve. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, my friend. What do you think about that? What do you think about constitutional carry? If you're not otherwise prohibited from carrying a concealed weapon, means you have to be of age. You can't have a felony conviction. If you're not otherwise prohibited, should you be able to carry? Like he said, 29 states say yes. What say you? Send me an email, stevegruber.com, stevegruber.com. Final thoughts after this. Now, I did think that at this point in the war in Iran that it would be more active from the Iranian side. Now, we've seen some missiles and some drones. We've seen 6 American military personnel killed in a drone attack. We know that. It's a high price to pay. But I did seriously think that Iran would have more firepower, but apparently much of that has been neutralized. The latest polling from Fox shows a 50-50 split on the idea of the war. All right, so 50% of the Americans asked support it, 50% are opposed. As you can imagine, more Republicans in favor than Democrats. Independents slightly on the negative side there. 61% view Tehran as a security threat. So while most people agree that Iran posed a threat to the world, it's still a 50-50 split. But those numbers are better, by the way, than they have been. That's a Fox News poll, by the way. Operation Epic Fury was less popular 4 or 5 days ago than it is now. The approval ratings then were 42, 43%. And look, the quicker this is wrapped up, if it can be, the quicker that we can return to normal, the quicker that we can be in a position to move forward, and we'll see what happens. The oil fields have not been destroyed, nor should they be. That is the way that Iran will stand itself back up financially, by putting its oil on the world market, not just to China at cut rates anymore, but on the global market. That's the way Iran can come back financially and rebuild itself. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. The IRGC still holds an iron grip in all 31 provinces, but that's subject to change any given day. We'll have to see how it plays out. It is subject to change any given day. If one province falls into the hands of the opposition, and then a second province, that's how you build momentum and morale. We'll see if that plays out. That is my guess. Somewhere there's a weak province where the IRGC has been compromised and will be run out of town. We'll see. Fight the good fight and keep the faith, my friends. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is The Steve Gruber Show. And remember, only you can save America.